Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some alts today. This week's a bit jostled around with New Year's Day in the middle of the week. I'm kind of sick. Normally I stream today, I'm going to stream tomorrow. My voice is a bit hoarse. First video of 2025, and things look interesting, kind of odd across the board. We'll start with DXY because the higher dollar strength goes, the harder it is for crypto to do well. It doesn't mean crypto can't do well. Obviously today, crypto's doing very well. It's just the question is, are we on some borrowed time here? DXY rising like this hurts liquidity, and that's mainly why we see risk assets going in the opposite direction. Typically, we're typically inverse correlated with DXY. Now we've seen DXY explode since November 5th, and there was a brief period of time where we had the possibility of a head and shoulders here. But the moment we broke the right shoulder, that called for a failed head and shoulders, a continuation. Depending on how much trading experience you have, you will view these patterns one way or the other. For me, anytime I see this on anything, the initial bias is down. The actionability does not occur until we break the support, which the dollar never really broke the support. This isn't me like hedging or taking anything back. We never really got confirmation. We did get confirmation, however, on breaking the right shoulder. That was December 10th, 12th, whatever. So to see this play out thus far is what you'd expect based on a failed head and shoulders. To see the S&P break down further is what you'd expect, I think, to see when you see the dollar strength like we're seeing. A lot of this is, I believe, Apple, some of the Mag 7 down, Tesla down 7% today. But even on the S&P, this fractal is not bullish. This is a head and shoulders. Okay, like it might look like slightly different than your textbook head and shoulders, but you got a head, you got two shoulders. That's all I need to see. Okay, so all the more evidence that risk assets are on struggle street here in the first week of the year. Again, crypto can do fine. Crypto can survive. It's a matter of probabilities rather than absolutes. It's easier for crypto to go up if dollar is down, S&P is up, Q's up. Q's look just as bad as the S&P, not necessarily head and shoulders, but this looks like a cloud reset in the making, in that we will get at the very least a bearish TK cross here on the Qs probably within the next week or two. And it doesn't necessarily mean it will lead to bearish continuation, but it is a reset of the trend. It's also a failed reach of the 1618 based on the measured move of whatever this was, cup and handle, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, at the very least, I'd expect something like April, May. I don't think we're going to get full on bear trend. That's not the expectation, not an impossibility, but once again, how high can crypto go in the face of this is the question. So it's a bit odd right now. We also have total 2 on the crypto side of things. It looks okay. It doesn't look bearish per se. It's, again, a matter of probabilities, a matter of time horizon. Total 2 on aggregate trend looks okay, but it looks momentumless here at the moment. If we look at stable issuance, it's actually curled down. So that's more evidence against bullish continuation in the nearest of terms, and just difficulty with immediate continuation here for alts without that liquidity in the ecosystem. And if we look at it, Tether versus USDC, it's actually coming out of Tether. USDC has actually done a decent job towards the end of the year, making new multi-month highs. Tether was at an all-time high above 140 billion, and that's curled down a little bit. This could all just be end of the year stuff, right? It's hard to really say one way or the other just yet, but it's just harder for alts especially to do well with stablecoins getting taken out of the ecosystem. And I'm sure if you pull up other types of stablecoin metrics relative to total 2 or total 3, it'll tell you the same thing, in that we're sort of running a little low on liquidity here, running on thin ice on those charts. This is total 2 BTC stripping out stables, and it looks okay, right? The bottoming process has begun. We've stopped making new lows. We tested resistance, got knocked down. I would love to see this just chop around until Q2. Last halving, which is what I think I'm highlighting here, it took almost a year before we saw new highs. I don't think that's necessarily rational to think the same here. That would be, again, Q2 April-ish. So it's really just level setting expectations. I don't expect explosive moves out of alts across the board. Looking at dominance, I feel like every week I get fed on my timeline these people talking about alt season. You don't really need to guess. You just need to wait for this to roll over. And it looks weak. It looks the weakest it's looked throughout this entire multi-year process, but it's still not bearish yet. It is getting to neutral. So what we want, or what you want in dominance, if you're an altcoin maximalist, is dominance on a 3-day cloud below like 56%. But for the moment, the read here is certainly neutral over bearish. And then looking at BTC, I like 80 first over 125. We'll look at the yearly pivots in a second. Those are two of the yearly pivots for the year. I even like a tap of the 20-week moving average, which is around 78 currently. That's going to slowly move up over the next couple weeks. We can do nothing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. It's just, again, it's a matter of probabilities and headwinds versus tailwinds. It's just going to be harder to go up here. That's it, especially if S&P is rolling over, legacy markets rolling over, dollar going higher, oil going higher, inflation higher, rate cut expectations lower. And if BTC is having trouble, alts certainly are going to have trouble. Down here in the white is the 200-week moving average. That's the bear market bottom target. It's nice to see it this high. It's at basically 43K. So that's the ultimate downside risk. I think there's a 0% chance that happens this year. But when I look at this pitchfork and I look at what happened in 2024, I don't hate the possibility of revisiting the midpoint here. That's within the realm of expectations. It's just if we're truly bullish, we probably stop at the 20-week moving average. We really don't want to see anything below that. And if we look at the daily cloud, that's another level on the daily cloud. Before I go any further here, in altcoin land, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro at the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Paired Ventures Inc., PBI, DBA, Kraken. I've used Kraken for many, many years. Some of the lowest fees in the U.S., and I've never had issues with wires or anything like that versus some of these other exchanges. At least for me personally, Kraken's been great. So looking at BTC, there's your yearly pivot there at 80. There is the bottom of the daily cloud at 80. That's kind of the downside risk here. Volume also declining, even if you're not necessarily a head and shoulders believer here. I'm going to call it something attempting a close resemblance to some sort of bearish reversal pattern. Okay. It may not work out. That's okay. But it's just, what do you want to do in the face of this with everything else I just said? You could be long and strong here. There's nothing against that. The cloud is still bullish. But my expectation is we fail to break 100 and, maybe we go sideways. That's kind of the best case, is we just do nothing until the 20th of January and then we figure it out from there. If, like the DXY, this is a failed head and shoulders, that's how we get to this 125 zone. So we'll see. I don't think it's fair to necessarily call one thing or the other here. It's still in the loading zone for directionality. It's just straight up neutral. It's been essentially flat since November. And as long as BTC isn't turbo bearish, alts can do well in the near term. Again, it goes back to time horizon. Some people, they love their Ripple, they're holding it multi-year bagger, right? Whatever. That's fine. But we talk about charts every week. And the question is, what does it look like this week versus last month? It looks like a triangle that's trying to break out. The question is, how much do you want or expect here? If we just measure this from nose to tail, as far as the high to the low, we get 365 to 420. That's a reasonable expectation if this continues. But if this continues, that probably means BTC is back above 100. So it kind of needs BTC for some confirmation there. All in all, it looks okay, and it certainly looks better than most alts at this stage of the game, especially because it's up the percentage. It's still holding a 300% move from November, whereas BTC has been flat since November. XRP, BTC also the same idea here, trying to break up. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It just, it kind of depends on this working out positively for alts. One other thing to mention on low time frame BTC would be some sort of garbled inverted head and shoulders mess here. On lower time frames, first we had the Adam and Eve that didn't quite pan out. Then I thought we might get a shoulder here that didn't quite pan out. Now this is whatever this is, right? It looks okay. It's doing decently well on low time frames. But again, the 4-hour cloud is kind of telling you, all right, anything above 100K, we're back in business. And we should get a nice move off of that. And this is probably preferred by most people rather than sub 94, sub 92. But the standoff is definitely at 100K. For ETH, a little bit of the same on the low time frames there. Something triangle, inverted head and shoulders, right? It's some Kafka-esque pattern that's trying to happen here, right? None of it is bearish. It is trying to break up as we speak. It's just the higher time frames. The question is, what is this over the next week, over the next month? Are we going to get some sort of breakdown here versus an Adam and Eve? You know, it just feels kind of neutral and not really a great low time frame trade to take. There is this IHS possibility on higher time frames. That's probably where most people are at, and they don't really care. Even down to 2,800 is reasonable for that idea. It's just it's set up today. I don't really see much of anything. I'm much more bullish on ETH BTC. This to me looks potentially set up for the best it's looked in years. Now I like this better in this zone. That's when I'm more confident that it may try to break that resistance level. And that's going to take a little time, and that's okay. We don't need an answer today. But what we don't want to see if we're bullish ETH BTC is anything below 034. We really don't want to see that over the next couple months. But if this is able to break out, I like the 05 possibility. For Sol, it's bounced decently over the past 24 hours. I think 2 days ago I was talking about a bear flag that decided to break up. Great. You know, not much has changed on any time frame. You know, it's above the 4-hour, but it's kind of failed to do much of anything since November on the 4-hour. But that is a signal you could be listening to. On the daily, it's still neutral, right? It's in the cloud, bearish TK cross. Your best bet is always fully congruent cloud signals on the daily, aka price above cloud, bullish TK cross. So just a mixed bag all around on low time frames there. Sol BTC, really all I care about on these alt BTC charts is nailing some high time frame idea. I really don't care about the day to day, the week to week even. It's what is this trending throughout the year? If this can get back above 0027, I like it. But just looking at this here, you know, the cloud is saying it's nothing. It's really been nothing since December 2023. It's been effectively flat. Now you could of course always range trade this if you're a champion. I am not such a champion of range trading. So I'd rather just sit in majority BTC. For Dogerino, also across the board on the meme coin side, you know, this could be a low time frame Adam and Eve. Trend on the daily isn't really there. Everything's resetting. I like this a lot better if it is able to break out of the daily like it did in October. And I think that'll take probably all of Q1 to reset this. If it does reset, you're getting a bearish TK cross here probably over the next couple of days. Even if we don't get a full cloud reset, bull to bear to bull, you'll probably want a bullish TK cross at the very least if this breaks up. But again, that relies on DTC breaking and holding 100K, most likely. Doge BTC, same thing, just a mixed bag. Neutral, bearish TK cross. Not really much else to say on that one. Stellar has moved last year with the Ripple news, and it hit a multi-year high. So again, the question is, for most people, is there reason and rationale to continue to sit in this thing if you manage to catch any of this move? For me, that answer would be no. It was up 600% in a month, right? You're going to have people taking profit. Now, the next question is similar to LTC. Can this break out of this multi-year pattern? And we're talking another 600% to some other crazy number. This would probably be a multi-year idea. So for some people, it's worth it. For some people, it's not. I'm guessing most people will take their 600% and say, thank you very much, and move on with their life. And the next trade to think about would be an all-time high, at least on Kraken, 0.66 breakout. ADA on the daily, much like Doge, you know, everything kind of resetting, bearish, neutral-ish. This did break down on the head and shoulders. It did barely graze the first target on the 1618 fib. It is trying to Adam and Eve, kind of like everything else. On low time frames, you can see that here. So it looks okay. I mean, part of me is like, just trade what's in front of you and take some of these trades on low time frames and see what happens, see where it goes. And that's certainly one way to tackle this, is just low time frame, Andy, looking at 4 hour and see what happens until BTC is above 100K. ADA BTC also neutral, but also has that Adam and Eve fractal. Pepe in the meme coin side, neutral, not really a trend, just sort of chopping around, not really much going on there. Tau also chopping. Is there really a trend here, is the question I'm always asking. On the daily, no. This has been effectively flat since September. Is there any chart pattern here that's helpful for bias or direction? Maybe a low time frame W double bottom there, like an Adam and Eve situation. Again, kind of waiting on that 4 hour cloud confirmation, but it's up 11% today. Okay, great. But can that hold? Can that continue? I think is the question. That just looks like a garbled mess to me. SUI along with Ripple has held up better than most of the market. This did have I'll delete all this old stuff. This did have the same triple top, low time frame mess. Never broke down. It's done okay, right? Trend wise, the cloud is telling you this looks fine. It's held the Tenkan this entire time. You can see it trying to stab down, failing. So the way this has behaved, it's certainly behaved healthier than almost all of the market, which has given back a lot more than SUI has. FTM, here we start to get into the highly volatile and violent categories, right? Lower down the market cap, maybe outside of top 5, outside of top 10, where there's less of a reason to sit around and see what happens for most people, right? If you're talking about 50+% move in something like this, you probably just take profit regardless and say thank you, right? Trend wise, this is all over the place at this point, but certainly not bullish down here. Curve with a nice Kijun bounce there, holding that dollar level. There was a high time frame level at like 45. That's certainly held that. So this continues to look good. I don't think I'm out of bounds here when we're talking about DeFi doing well in 2025 based on the incoming administration. It's just a matter of drawdown risk, volatility, time horizon, right? Do you want to sit through this? Can we assume some of this stuff does better on the way down than BTC will? I'm not so sure. But if we're just trading this individually in a vacuum, this chart looks okay. It doesn't scream anything to me here at this point, but it looks fine. It looks fine. AVAX all over the place. Neutral, W double bottom. My guess is this just chops around. It kind of lags almost everything most of the time. I don't think it's going to move on its own. So probably best to wait for other stuff to take action on that one. Link doing its best to beat the Head and Shoulders allegations. One of the cleanest triple tops amongst the alt group. In my mind, my preference is certainly just to wait for that to roll over or go neutral or something, even on the BTC pair. You can see it there. So these can and do fail in bull markets. That's fine. It's, again, do you want to eat this drawdown? That's up to you. I would rather not sit in this thing down to 15. I would rather wait for it to show me some strength at 25. I don't really want to sit in this if I don't have to. It doesn't make sense to do so. DOT also broke down, again, like AVAX. It's not really going to be a market leader relative to everything else, and it probably makes more sense to just wait on some of this stuff for a better signal. .BTC, bearish mess. Nothing to speak of there. Algo, pretty clean. W, even on the daily on high time frames there. This is probably one of the earlier candidates to watch for a full reset of the cloud, because you're getting a bearish cloud today, you're getting a bearish TK cross today, and you have price above the cloud. So this could flip bear to bull rather quickly over the course of the next 2 weeks, depending on price action there. With mess, right? What is this? It's down still. It's down 58% from highs. Trend has been nothing since March 2024, and it really doesn't make sense to sit in this. It just doesn't. It's all over the place. If you're a range trader, you're loving this level because you're hoping for anything above 350 from here, but it's not for me. Bonk, same thing, just a mess since March. these meme coins really need QE to come back. They need dollar down. They need liquidity up. They need stables printing like mad. So until that happens, I don't think you can really expect much to happen here out of the meme coins that have done really well last year. LTC also has that W double bottom characteristic. Neutral now probably just chops around until the rest of the market makes a decision. Not really much to say there. Aave also behaving decently well relative to everything else. Lots of chop though on Aave, so you got to have a stomach for that. I just think if you're bullish DeFi, you just don't care what the prices are here, because most of this stuff has been beaten down for so many years that yeah, you can wait for another 25 to 50% lower, or you can just start buying, ease in lower, right? It just really depends on your attitude towards this stuff in 2025. Render, giant chop fest, sideways, low time frame, Adam and Eve on that one. FET, chop fest, bunch of nothing. Near, nothing, chop, right? Just instantly with the cloud, you can see that. SEI, chop, nothing. SHIB, probably following the meme coin mantra, just doing a bunch of nothing. Yeah, low time frame, Adam and Eve. This chart overall is, I think, a little cleaner in that you had your downtrend, you had your IHS play out. So of the meme coins, my preference would be to trade this, just because it historically has given decent signals, even as far back as 2023. It's played out as expected, and it looks a little cleaner to me than WIF or Bonk. Still not bullish here. Uni back to DeFi, looks okay. Bit of a W double bottom there. Adam and Eve situation setting up. Cloud will probably flip fully neutral here before this breaks out, but something to watch on lower time frames. Sure. Filecoin, low time frame. W trend overall is just a mess there on that one though. Lido, as we keep going, messy trend. ETH beta needs ETH to be above 4,000 probably to do well. TIA down, what is this, 45% from the December high. And this is a perfect example of something that no one is willing to hold on to, especially if this was down an 80% drawdown in 2024 and immediately gives back another 50%, let's call it. It's just hard to expect this thing to hold. Now, again, if you're a range trader, you love it. You're buying 5, you're selling 10 or something like that. As a trend trader, this is just a no-go for me until the cloud resets on the daily. Apt had some news towards the end of the year. Just an avoid for me. This has been nothing but chop. Since 2023, I like this late cycle, probably back above 15, but not here. INJ, as we finish up the list, chop, nothing. I mean, most things are just going to have a low time frame. Adam and Eve here, waiting for majors to play out. ICP, chop, nothing. STX, chop, nothing. JUP needs Sol to be bullish. Potential double bottom there, but what is your confidence level on any of this stuff is the question. The farther we go down this list, I would much rather size up on top 5, top 10 versus playing in this category of stuff down here. Atom, maybe a double bottom, but trend is certainly not bullish. Monero, chop fest, flat. Nobody can really buy it. Not really much to do there. GRT, chop fest, ARB, chop fest. All these charts, if you just flip through them quickly, they look all the same. They really do. Not really much going on here in the near term. Matic, Sand, HNT, chopping around. I just really don't see justification for holding much of anything at this point based on trend. You can be bullish on a sector, fine, but overall, it probably makes more sense to watch the majors, see how they react, see if Bitcoin can hold 100K, and then go from there. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.